Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I am back with Dan, aka Home of the Villa, Sam, aka Sam Wise, UTV, and Vice President now of the Matty Cash fan club. And we do have Martin in the background, just sorting out one or two technical issues. Apologies, we're slightly late, but we were just had a couple of technical issues. Then we were chatting about all sorts, and we thought, well, we better get on the podcast to talk about it. So thank you all for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're marching on to 10,000 subscribers. Please do help us get there by liking, subscribing, get your comments in. We've got comments flying in already. We'll try and get through as many as we can. And your questions, comments. We're going to talk generally about the performance, generally about the main talking points, and then obviously get into some of the performances of the Aston Villa players off today's fantastic victory. Sam, I'll come to you first. Great win. We talked about the momentum gained from the 4 wins in a row before the international break in all competitions. And this game was, I guess, one of the testing ones to see how far that momentum's gone. How well do you think Villa have passed that test so far?
Well, hello, everyone. And it's nice to know that as well as customarily being the last voice on the pod, I get to be the first one on this one as well. So I'm very happy about that. It was one of those, you have an international break off the back of four wins and, you start picking up form and it's not perfect, but, we're grinding out results and we start to look a bit more structured and look like we kind of know what we're doing a little bit more. And then bam, you hit an international break. Ollie Watkins goes into the post. You don't know what's going on elsewhere. And Arna's playing for Belgium, which means there's a 90% chance he's going to get injured. So it's one of those where you I almost felt like the international break came at the wrong time. But bar a shaky 5 minutes, first 5 or 10 minutes, which I'm sure we'll get into, I thought we were brilliant. And I think in answer to your question, I think we responded to that test of, coming back from the international break as we were doing before it. And I think we did that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, we were chatting last week on the fans forum about these next 3 games that we had: Tottenham, Man City, and Liverpool. And we talked about how much it would tell as to how far Villa have come. Would it be just papering over the cracks? But you look at the character, I guess, that they showed today after going behind, which we'll touch on in a little bit, to come back, to make the substitutions for substitutes to have a big impact in the game, to keep the heads. There certainly is that recovery is real right now.
Yeah, I think we spoke about on the fans forum about defensively we've done well, and I don't want to go too much into what we will talk about, but yeah, defensively we've done well. We hadn't conceded that many chances to most teams, and actually, as Sam alluded to, the first 5 or 10 minutes where they scored and what have you, actually they didn't really create a huge amount. And I'd said, and when we spoke the other night, that they haven't actually played that well at home this season, in the Champions League and in the league. So it was about, could we take that momentum into today? And we will get into it, but certainly made the most of that, and 3 points again in the bag for Emery.
Exactly, and great 3 points it was. You talked about not getting off to the best start. Both of you touched on that. Sam, with regards to that sort of first goal that we conceded in the 5th minute, Dan's right. There wasn't really anything from either team. Both teams kind of just feeling each other out, not really pressing each other too well. But I guess some wasteful play by Onana. We give Elise to giving away a needless corner. Are you slightly concerned about the way that we're defending the set pieces, or I guess at that moment that to concede the goal in that manner would have meant concern, moving forward into the game. I don't think we did too badly defending the set pieces, but I think it's 1 or 2 goals now conceded off set pieces, isn't it? And is that a bit of a concern?
Yeah, I think especially at the back post. I mean, I'm not a stats man per se, so I'm not going to sit here and reel off how many chances we've conceded from the back post. But there are a few times I can remember, especially Matty Cash and Consta on that, on the right side of our defence, kind of. It seems like we're playing almost zonal, a zonal system when we defend from set pieces, especially corners, and the back post seems to be open quite a lot, and no one really knows who's tracking their man. And I think Concert over the last, I don't know, even since the start of the season, we weren't playing well. I think he's been sensational, and he's obviously gone away and done the business for England, and people are quite rightly now acknowledging him as England's best centre back by a country mile. But one of his flaws, if we can be like honest and candid, is that he from set pieces he does tend to lose a man, and I think that happened again in this instance. But I think in general, defensively, one of the things that we've been crying out for is for our defenders to hold the line quite well. And I know Dan said that not a lot happened in that first 10 minutes from Spurs, but they could have had a second that was obviously ruled offside, and that was only possible because a really, really strict back line that kept a straight line. Meant Kudus was offside. So Spurs were going forward, and they were they were pressing that threat, and they were really relying on Kudus v Digne. They kind of were hoping that was going to be what's going to unlock us, and it did. But defensively, I thought we were pretty sound. So after that. After their goal, I wasn't necessarily concerned with us defensively, but it was one that they'll look at and they won't be happy with, I think.
Yeah. Just a couple of comments coming in. Rogers switched off for that first goal, says Michael. Gary said had that dodgy spell in the first 10 minutes, but great after that. And it did seem like that. Welcome, Martin. I hope your connection is better. Good man. But yeah, it did seem after that I don't know. I was kind of expecting Tottenham to really press on and try and really go for the second goal, and really sort of hammer it home. But they didn't. They kind of just started to try and contain Villa. And I guess they were trying that, catch us on the break. If we gave the ball away, they'd look for the wide players quite quickly. But they were quite wasteful. And it was almost like, I guess, by accident, Villa just thought, you know what, we can probably get something out of this game. It was almost like you could gradually see the belief of the Villa players coming into them, that they could actually go and get something from this game.
Is that directed to anyone in particular?
Martin, he's just joined us. Are you with us?
I think he's got narcolepsy and he's fallen asleep.
I think he's froze. Dan, what do you nodded your head then when we were talking? What were your thoughts on that?
I don't know if Martin's back, if he wants to come in now.
I think he's playing solitaire.
No, he's out. He's out.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was walking back from the game to get the train, and there were a load of Spurs fans, and I spoke to another Villa fan on the way back, and I genuinely thought when we went 1-0 down, and then they had the goal disallowed, I thought, Spurs, if I were Spurs, I'd go, right, let's just absolutely fly everyone forward. Let's try and pepper them for 15 minutes. But after that disallowed goal, from where it may have looked different on TV, but I didn't actually create anything or cause us any real damage. I don't remember Martinez having to make. I know he made the save from Palhinha in the second half, but he didn't have any like one-on-ones, any like real clear-cut chances. And I think, Villa sort of started to grow to be like, well, actually, okay, they've got some tricky wingers, but we can defend that. They can put balls into the box all they want. We're obviously quite comfortable clearing that, but actually, like they grew into the game, and I know we will get onto it, but I think they actually thought, you know what, let's try and put our game plan into play. Let's soak up the pressure and actually hit them on the transition. And obviously, but we'll get on to the goals. They're maybe not prime Unai Emery goals where we've cut through a team, but they're two superb goals nonetheless. So I think I don't think if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be pretty disappointed with the performance. And a lot of them were on the train saying that was rubbish, that was boring football. And I've seen some in the comments that I'm sure we'll get to about, is it Tony Pulis ball? But they were lumping long balls into the box and long throws, and you're like, we're a little bit different now. And in any Premier League team, you're like, that's probably quite easy to defend. Certainly when you've got Onana in the box, long ball, just get ahead on it. So yeah, I think we executed a game plan that we obviously had well. And although I know we'll get on to it, but I heard a Villa fan say it was shocking tactically. Emery was lucky with his substitutions, yeah, and I just thought, Christ, you can't win or lose. You win 4 games on the bounce, and it's
was
still
that a Villa
the
fan
decision.
saying that, or a Tottenham
fan?
Yeah,
no, it was a Villa fan. I think I said something like Unai with another tactical masterclass, and he was like, he got it completely wrong. He should have played this person. This was a lucky goal. Buendia should have started, and you're like, all right, well, if Buendia started and had a shocker, then someone would have said he shouldn't have played. So yeah, but
me probably.
No, yeah.
We'll get onto that later. But yeah, I mean, I thought I was bad for losing my head, but that's ridiculous, especially after a win. But yeah, let's just get into some of the comments. Kev says their goal was kind of lucky, a massive deflection. It did deflect off Amadou Onana. Spurs had nothing. I was waiting for Villa to step up and play on the front foot, and I guess that's what we did. Gary did say, bye, Martin. Can you hear us, Martin? Are you with us, mate?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everyone hear me correctly?
We can hear you, yes. Yes, we can hear you. So right, you're going to take us into the 37th minute. Morgan Rogers. I was doing the watch along. Everyone in the comments was, get Rogers off. He's crap. We need to sub him off at halftime. Get Harvey Elliott on. Then he gives the ball away. It bounces back to him. He skips inside Xavi Simons and then strikes it with the tip of his instep. No backlift, no spin on the ball, just rockets over Vicario's outstretched arm into the top corner. And everyone's like, what you saying about Morgan Rogers now? How did you feel when that goal went in, Mark?
What a goal, for starters, because it's about time Morgan Rogers decided he could take a shot from outside the box, and clearly, it's gone into the top corner. And, it's just one of them things where Sod having a pass, forget about trying to look for the extra man, take the shot, take a chance, and look, it paid off, and he grew into the game as the game went on. Then after that, he looked really well. He started to link up play a lot better. He was starting to get himself about being physical, and it's just really built up his confidence, and that's the main thing for him, really. Building up that confidence for him to score that type of goal. What a way to open up your account, going to the corner flag in front of the Spurs fans, and it was just an unbelievable finish. And then I was watching the fan reaction earlier, and Expressing calling Roger Rabbit, because quite frankly, he said he could do nothing all season, and then he goes and scored against Tottenham Hotspur and starts calling him Roger Rabbit, and I'm laughing my head off, because it is one of them typical things, isn't it? Like, for Spurs,
pull that finish out of the hat.
Yeah,
smooth.
when a player does nothing all season and would just score against a club where it's like that's typical of him to score against us. Like, we've seen it with players before against us, like Rasmus Højlund, for example. He'll do nothing all season, and then all of a sudden he'll bang in 2 goals against us, where Rodgers, he's done nothing all season, but he seems to always put in the game against Tottenham Hotspur and actually has a good record against Tottenham too. So hopefully this builds up his confidence.
Yeah, Mark, you sound a little bit in and out, mate, but we'll persevere. We'll persevere. I think you're on your phone there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Sam, talk to us about Morgan Rogers. What were you one of these fans that were saying get him off the pitch for half time, or were you faithful that Rogers would step to the plate and show us what he can do?
No, I thought he was shite before his goal, if I'm being honest. I thought it was shocking. His first touch was all over the gaff. He kept trying to turn, trying to run through too many men, and you know, kind of when he ran it too far, just would drop to the floor and call for a foul. And he didn't get one of those. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. He didn't get any of them today. So yeah, no, I thought I wasn't calling for him to come off because I've kind of given up on that now. I know that Emery's going to play him the full 90 minutes and then probably make him go play the under 21s just because he wants to watch him some more. But then obviously the goal kind of comes off him losing the ball again, and then it all kind of ricochets back to him, and then he's just said, "You know what? I can't be asked." And he's had a shot, and it's one of those where it's not top corner. It's quite central, but Vicario is in a really, really terrible place, actually, so far to his left. So the ball goes just left of centre or just right of centre for Vicario. But he's hit it with that much power, and it's got that dip on it. It's like it's bending down, and it's one of those where from where Vicario was and the power that he's got on the shot, you can't save it. And it's exactly what we needed to bring us into that game, because at that point we hadn't had a shot on target.
No.
And I know, if I'm being honest, I disagree with Dan a little bit about sort of Spurs' performance. I mean, if you look at the stats wise, they, you know, over the whole 90 minutes, they had the better of the chances, of the passes, of the, you know, they had more of everything. But they just seemed less clinical in that final third. They were kind of like playing it out all right. Pelini and Bentancur were doing all right in the middle. Kudus was doing what he needs to do in terms of getting past his man. But then that ball into the box, it just wasn't really, we were just defending them so well. Like they had loads of balls fly into the box and we were just pinging them all back out. So I don't want to detract from our performance to say, oh, Spurs were terrible. I don't think Spurs were terrible. I just thought that we combated what they're good at very well.
Contain them well.
Yeah, I think we did contain them, and we made them look worse than they were. But I don't think they were terrible. They clearly like need a striker. Do you know what I mean? They need someone to hold up the ball and play. That's what they're missing. I feel like they're playing with three wingers up top. But yeah, Morgan Rogers just, you know, it's one of those things, and I've said it in the chat. That's what he does. You know, like he'll have a so-so first 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. And then he'll just score a goal and do something special. And that's what he's got in his locker. And I think that's why, you know, Unai Emery persists with him. I think that's why Tuchel is a big fan of him, is because he has something special and he can do that. And we said this at the start of the season, you know, when we were just playing the ball left and right, someone just have a pop. Do you know what I mean? Just have a shot, test the keeper, get us going, you know, raise the voices of the fans. You know, and we did that. We did that really well. And Morgan Rogers, I'm really happy for him. I hope this is like, you know, a stepping stone for him to finding his form. I think he needs to work on his basics, especially his first touch. But he needs to get back to basics. But that'll help him to no end. And I'm glad that the Villa fans sort of backed him at that time. And you know, and he obviously, when he celebrated the second goal, I'm sure we'll get into that. But he seemed absolutely buzzing as well. So it kind of seems like he's fallen back in love with the project, which is nice.
Absolutely. Just a quick follow-up before I move on to the other boys. But, you know, a lot of fans, a lot of journalists and that, you know, I've seen on Twitter, I think Matt Law saying, oh, you know, those who doubted him now, you know, what are you saying now? Rogers has scored and that. But I mean, do you think just a goal automatically just forgives like poor performances? And does it mean that he automatically played well today? Because he didn't have a very good game. If we're really analysing it, he wasn't brilliant today. Like, he scored a brilliant goal, but he wasn't brilliant, was he?
He wasn't. And I don't think it does like automatically discount not just this season, but the last half of last season. Do you know what I mean? Like when Asensio and Rashford came into the team, he, you know, kind of became a bit non-existent, Morgan Rogers, and his fall off in form was from them. But he, you know, I think the point is what we said before was we wanted to see Morgan Rogers put in some effort. We didn't like the fact that he was slunking around the pitch and, you know, he was kind of jogging everywhere and putting half-hearted challenges and not tracking his man. And I think from today, what I'm most happy with Morgan Rogers, yeah, he lost the ball a lot of times and, you know, he's not back to his scintillating best, but, you know, he made a really, really positive contribution and he looked up for it. He looked up for it and he put in the effort and, you know, not to say, because I know that I'll annoy you, Rich, just because someone's running around means that they're contributing to the game. But but you kind of you know you need a bit of you need a bit of pace. You know you need someone to kind of have some energy, and he did that really well. So
well, yeah,
I think,
absolutely. It's the minimum expectation, isn't it? Like if you're not having a good game, if the game's not going for you, then the least you can do is make a nuisance of yourself, run around, put tackles in, put 110% effort in. That's the minimum. Yeah,
that's why like Rodgers is our player. Like we're not reviewing him objectively. We want him to do well, and we want to cling onto any excuse to praise him and to say that he's back. And that's what we should be doing. We should be backing him because he's just a kid at the end of the day. He's 22, 23. You know, he's fallen out of form. He's subject to transfer rumors, and his best mates left, and all of this nonsense, whatever. But you know, the truth is his head wasn't where it needed to be, and now he's showing some desire to kind of get back into it and fight for his Villa place and his England place. And we should back him. We should back him for that. And we should, praise him for a fantastic goal and for finding a little bit of form. We shouldn't shit on his parade and say, oh, well, he still lost the ball 1,000 times because, the rest of the world can do that. We should just celebrate him and just say, well done. You scored a really important goal and we won the game.
Forget all the giving the ball away. Forget that, mate. You're brilliant. It's amazing. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, Kevin, keep it up, Morgan. Form is temporary. You know the rest. Exactly. Guys, we have nearly 300 of you in the chat. Please do, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Help us on the road to 10,000 subscribers and get your comments flowing. I've got the comments coming up on the screen as well. I've starred some, so we'll come back to them and I'll try and get through as many as I can. James said the second season, this is where the hard work starts. As defenders know about him now. And Gary said his England form has helped his Villa form. And yeah, I think Emery's happy with him, definitely. So that's good. That's very good. And Dan, just on to the second half. And before we talk about the winning moment, the magic moment that we had, and Villa had to weather a bit of a storm, didn't they, at the start of the second half? A couple of long throw-ins, and this seemed to be, you've mentioned the Tony Pulis Stoke tactic that Thomas Frank has employed, but yeah, there was a surprising amount of white towels around the ground that were used for Kevin Danso for his throw-ins, but strangely would disappeared when Aston Villa had a throw-in. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, don't you worry. I think if that was Aston, I was going to say if that was Aston Villa, we'd have all the towels stripped. There'd be no more. We'd have to stop. We'd have to be blamed for it raining and the ball being wet, and we'd probably be fined. But yeah,
exactly. But yeah, a couple of big long throw-ins went into the box. I think it was Odebear that hit the shot and it ricocheted off Konsa, and then Palhinha had the shot that Emi Martinez saved. But we had to weather a bit of a storm, didn't we, at the start of that second half?
Yeah, I think the things we did have to weather were things that you're able to work from, because they tended to be off the back of a set piece, whether it was a throw in or it was a second ball that then came. You can practice and you can tactically, right, we know that they're going to throw a long ball. This is where you're going to be positioned. I thought we defended those well, and I think Sam alluded to it as well. Not that you need a striker off the back of a long throw, but they just haven't really got anyone that you'd say that guy can put a ball in the back of the net. And when we've got a relatively tall squad, certainly with Onana in there, but you've got Konsa, and I mean even Torres. I did criticise him a few weeks ago, and he's defensively he's not good enough, but actually he's stepped up the last few weeks. But he's willing to put his head in as well, which maybe 12 months ago he did all the glamorous stuff, but actually was he going to throw his head in? But we actually defended those, I thought, for the most part, pretty well. But actually, yeah, yes, it was a threat, but it wasn't sort of. I don't think I wasn't in too much sort of worry that they were going to, at some point, all of these throw-ins were going to come off, because they did seem like it was just going, right, let's just hurl it in as far as we can and just hope for a bit of chaos.
Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, the chance came because Onana went for it and ended up flicking it on. It was actually a great flick on. But apart from that, the way that Danso was throwing them in didn't seem particularly coached, if you know what I mean. It just was like, You've got a long throw, mate. Just throw it in the box, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
It just he might have been asking. They might have been asking for tips off Austin McPhee.
Yeah.
But you know,
Well,
I think he was aiming for Dini's ankles.
yeah, probably, yeah,
But
probably.
my old man, when he used to work in the Middle East, and the guy who used to have a house next to him, he was an UEFA A license coach for used to coach at Wimbledon, Peter Crouch, and so he was at QPR with Peter Crouch when he was coming through, and he said at throw-ins, a lot of the coaches would say circles, and you see it now. Like players running circles. There was none of that from Spurs. As you say, it was like, right, Big Kev's got the ball. Kev, just whack it in as far as you can, and we'll just try and get on it. It's like, I don't think there's much coach. This is maybe where Keith Andrews helped Thomas Frank when he was the set piece coach at Brentford, but it didn't seem there was much set piece coaching other than Kev, you've got the ball, just chuck it in as hard as you can.
Yeah.
I love this idea that without Keith Andrews, Thomas Frank just has no idea about.
He's nothing. He's nothing. Keith Andrews made him. Keith Andrews made him.
It's the whole Gerrard and Beale conversation again.
Thomas Frank was asking everyone what a free kick is. He's like, what? How does this work?
Yeah, throw in. What's one of them? But yeah. Anyway, I've left him hanging. I've left him quiet. He's been messing about with his phone, trying to get his sound correct. But I'm going to let him have his moment now. The match-winning moment. Your man, your player, Martin. The dark horse of the season. Here he is. Emi Buendia. What was it? The 77th minute? Ball out from Matty Cash, and we'll talk about that pass in a minute. Luka Dean brings it down. Falls to Buendia, drives inside and thinks, you know what? The space is opening up for me here. And then beautiful curling, driving shot with his left foot into the bottom corner. Q limbs in the away end. Q Martin furiously messaging Richard saying, I told you he was a brilliant player. I told you he was the dark horse of the season. So there you go, mate. There you go. Shove that in your pipe and smoke it. But how do you feel, mate? What a goal. What a goal. What a moment.
Yeah, I mean, let's just paint the picture here a little bit. He gets an ACL injury at the start of the 23-24 season.
Oh, we're going back to the start. Jesus.
Oh, we're going way back. We're going way back.
When his mom, his father met his mom in a bar in Argentina. Their eyes like eyes.
And then obviously he gets loaned out halfway through the 24-25 season. And now this year he's had a preseason. This is what I said before, Rich, in the prediction. When you asked what was I right about, and Sam, don't bite. I'm biting. I don't care. I'm going to bite. He's obviously had a preseason. He's now caught up with fitness with all the players. Of course, at the very start when he was performing, people would have said, oh, maybe because the bar is so low and that's why he's performing. But everyone now's form, seems to start to pick up. But Buendia still looks levels above what everyone is, in my opinion. Yes, he's been an impact player for most of that, but that's what you need. Someone who's going to step up to the plate, and Buendia is doing that. Against Feyenoord, he was still arguably probably one of the better players on the pitch, trying to make things happen. Like Sam says, running around, but that's because he's got tenacity about him that middle of the park. He's willing to press. He's willing to win the ball high up the pitch. Look for that killer pass every single time. I've truth be told, I don't think I've ever seen Buendia pass sideways or backwards. He always wants to go forward. And for his goal, it was a typical Emi Buendia finish. Just look for the corner, smooth goal, like such a satisfying goal to watch. Just go into the corner, goalkeeper flat-footed, looking at Rodgers thinking he's in his line of sight, nowhere absolutely near him. And it was just an unbelievable finish. And Buendia seems to have a good record against Tottenham in the away end. He's got himself a goal there before. He's done it time and time again. And now this season, Buendia, for me, at this moment of time, is the player of the season for Aston Villa because his performance levels have just been fantastic. He's raised the bar. Everyone's now looking at this like, right, this man wants it. We need to match that. And Emery seems to be giving him a chance because there was talks at the end of the window whether he was going to be loaned out again, and Buendia said, "No, I'm here to stay. I want to perform. I want to have a chance in this team." And he's taken it with both hands, and it's just great to see that Buendia is finally performing. He's finally getting his awards, and hopefully now in the next few weeks or even this season, he can have the quality that he possesses so much, and hopefully he gets his due awards at the end of the season.
Yeah, well said, Martin. Well said. And I've always backed him, I have to say. No, look, I absolutely love the fact that he's playing so well, and 3 goals already this season in all competitions, and in key goals at that. And I think, Dan, the biggest thing about Buendia is that spark he's managing to give to Aston Villa. Unai Emery turned to him against Fulham when we needed something, and he came on and he gave us that spark. And that's almost been the catalyst. That's been the inspiration. That's been the sort of jolt that someone, say, like a Morgan Rogers has needed, that a John McGinn has needed, that one or two other players have needed in the side to say, look, he's come from all these injuries. He's come from almost being transferred out the club. He's had the attitude to get his head down and work. What's your excuse? And that's almost been like that. You've got no excuse, because he's been through all that, and he's coming in and he's scoring goals. He's making an impact, and he's playing, as Martin said, the best out of all of those attacking midfielders in the club. And we're almost surprised now when he's not starting, but we also know that when he does come on, he's going to make a massive impact, which is exactly what he did today.
Yeah, I think it's funny because Buendia, you may be one of these, Rich. Buendia is one of those where probably a few weeks ago you see him in the starting lineup and you're like, people, why the hell is he playing Buendia? He's shit. He can't do this, and then he actually puts in a performance. And now when he's not playing, it's like, oh, I wouldn't have dropped Buendia. And it's sort of like, yeah, it's. I mean, who are we to criticise? But yeah, I think he's. I was going to go out on a whim by saying he's got a bit of an Argentinian McGinn about him. He's got a bit more flair than maybe McGinn, but he's got that tenacity. He'll go hunting for the ball, and I think I spoke to him the other day. He against Palace, even when we lost 3-0, he came on at half time against Palace.
He did.
And he looked like the only player that actually wanted to just try and drive the team forward. And I think what everyone said, that he's actually stuck his hand up in the summer and gone, no, actually I want to be here. I want to fight for my position. And I think he's sort of playing like that player that's like, okay, well, I've said I want to stay, and when you give me the chance, I'm going to show you why I wanted to stay. Which again, I was in another group chat where you've got players that are willing to take a pay cut just so that we can meet various financial things. You've got Buendia that said, no, actually, I don't want to go out on loan. I want to play for it shows that there's a belief within the squad that the players that are here, they believe in this project. Otherwise, people wouldn't be taking pay cuts, and people would go, yeah, right, I'll go on loan for another season. But yeah, Buendia has been, as Martin said, without going through too much of his history, he's had a few injuries that haven't helped him, because he was looking really good that pre-season before he got the ACL injury, and I think we're starting to see maybe the Buendia now from those two seasons ago.
Yeah, 100%. Sam, you have the VP of the Cash fan club on your header. Let's just talk about that pass, because I actually think I was willing him to do it, but I actually think, and I think most Villa fans would have been forgiven for thinking he's just going to pass it back to Emi Martinez, which is basically what happens in every single situation when the ball gets cleared from a corner for every single club. Rather than putting it back in the box, putting it back in the mixer, they'll go back to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper will stand on the ball, and then everyone will get set back up into their positions, and then we'll try and beat a team with 11 men behind the ball again. But he didn't this time. He turned on it. He played a faded volley pass, 40, 50, 60 yards, pinged it to Luca Dean, who brought the ball down amazingly well, flicked it to Buendia, and Buendia does the rest. But Yeah, how surprised were you that Cash had that in his locker, first of all, and what a pass it was?
I mean, my first instinct was that was a shot. But no, it's like the technique on it is just unreal. But I will say this before I carry on praising Cash. If Luca Dean doesn't take it down like he does, and that's a hard ball to control, by the way. If he just because his foot, he has to jump in it. And by the way, he's on the right side, but he's left-footed, so he's controlling it with the wrong foot for that side.
Coming over his shoulder
over his
as well.
shoulder, the way that the ball is traveling, he can't put his body behind it to slow down the force and absorb the body, the ball's force with his body. So that technique to take it down from Luca Dean, it was a pass that deserved a touch like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if Luca Dean had just gone, there's no way I'm getting my foot up there, we'd have all gone, what's he doing?
Why didn't he just pass it back to Emi Martinez and set up the attack?
But it's one of those, and it's what you see at the highest level of football is a player who A, produces that kind of pass, but B, trusts that his teammate has the ability to take it down and deal with it. And that is what you see. Like, I watch a lot of football. When you watch the Man Cities and the Liverpools and Real Madrids and the Barca games, they play those kind of passes and they back their teammates to be able to deal with them. They say, look, it doesn't always have to be pinpoint right to your foot. I'm going to put it in the right area. But the pass was just unreal. And what I loved most about it is that Matty Cash was getting absolute pelters all game for a challenge from 2 years ago. And by the way, Danzo did about 7, which were worse than that Bentancur challenge just in this game. And so he's getting pelters the whole game. He's dealing really well with what's his name, Odebel on the right side. And then he plays that ball and everyone's swooning over it. Just a sensational. The technique on it, that volley's just so hard. Luca Dean brings it down, plucks it out of the sky, and not only does he pluck it down out of the sky, he does this really lovely, cheeky little layoff that goes back to Buendia, and then Buendia does. Ironically, out of the 3 things in that, in that chain of events, Buendia has the easiest job out of the 3. That pass is unreal. Taking it down is unreal. And then Buendia, which is an amazing shot from outside the box. And, but in that sequence, he has the easiest job. It's most likelihood of doing what he did. And it's one of those where Morgan Rogers' goal was a piece of individual brilliance. And you see that and you love to see it. But I love that second goal more because it's a combination of 3 forgotten players or 3 players who are regularly questioned about whether they're good enough. Matty Cash all the time. I'm as guilty of it as anyone. I put VP of the Cash fan club, and I do that ironically because I give him so much stick. But he gets challenged so much, and it is quality questioned so often. And for him to pull out that pass, Luca Dean, I was literally having a conversation with my mate Shazzy. I know he's in the comments. We were doing our combined Villa and Spurs 11. And I was trying to make an argument for Dean at left back. And he's like, no, Dean's rubbish. He's too old. He's not this. He's not Jed Spence. He's not this and that. And then he goes and does something like that. And a lot of people feel like that. He's over the hill. Maybe he's not played at the highest level, whatever it is, even though he's for France International and Champions League. He's played all that. And then Emi Buendia, as Martin's just recalled his family history, comes back from the dead to have the season that he's having. So it was just such a brilliant goal for morale for all of these players, and I'm just it's such a great goal to win a game with, and quite rightly that'll be talked about for goal of the month, and it's one of those where just absolutely buzzing to see it.
Yeah, 100%. A few comments coming in. TK says it's goal of the season done already. Kay says how quick he was with the second touch flick was class as well. Stephen says Dina must have just caught Cash's eye, but it came over his shoulder in slow motion. The Polish Cafu, says Matt. Gary says Cash still has no competition and is playing better. It's weird. Weston said he agrees with Kay. It was the second touch by Dina that was even better. Kevin does I was saying on the watch line, I thought VAR would take a look at it, but as it happened, Danso was playing Rogers onside when when Buendia had the shot. So yeah, definitely, it would have been potential, but I think there was enough space. And I don't think he was actually blocking the view when you looked at it from the angle of the shot. But brilliant goal from Buendia, and a goal worthy of winning any game. Just to round off the game, Martin. I was on the edge of my seat. Obviously, people watching at the same time were on the edge of our seats, but kind of in sort of sync with the game. I was kind of expecting Tottenham to go after Villa, to really, really put us on the rack, to really just throw everything at it, and everything just seemed to be just not quite 100% with them, not quite pushing it as much as they could, taking long time to take the throw-ins, taking a long time to take the goal kicks. Everything just seems so like precise when it probably just needed them to really go after the game. And I mean, it's better for us that they didn't, but ultimately they had one or two efforts. I think that Cash had to make a couple of really, really crucial headers. One was given as a free kick in the end, but there wasn't much that Tottenham threw at us that left us really clinging on right at the end.
No, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the game live as it happened. As unfortunate, I just had a bit of emergency that kind of come up last minute. But I did record the game and I got to watch it here eventually, and I got myself a full game highlight just so I knew what I was talking about and not waffling on. But yeah, like the last 10, 15 minutes, you're right, Rich. I was expecting kind of Tottenham to throw everything at us, and they didn't really. It was, like you said, taking too long with their throw-in. They weren't, there wasn't any like pressing from them in the middle of the park or high up. We were still comfortable enough to get high off the pitch, because another way sometimes when you're up against it and you're trying to get up the pitch and it doesn't work, we were still doing that relatively well, linking up with Barkley.
Barkley was taking the ball through midfield, wasn't he?
Yeah, like Barkley was getting it, linking up with Watkins, getting it again, playing it out wide, and we seem to be getting into good areas at high up in the pitch in the crucial minutes of the game to stop any momentum from Tottenham to get into our goal. And Martinez didn't really have too much to do in the last 10, 15 minutes. Anything that came his way, he was comfortable getting the ball. He was comfortable in possession. So it seems like to me, possession was the key thing for us in keeping the ball in the last few minutes. But that being said, Tottenham didn't really do enough to press us either, because Pau Torres could still get the ball away. Luca Digne could still take the ball in his stride and look forward. Barkley looking forward. Mario was absolutely incredible the whole game, I have to say. But these were things that you would expect from Tottenham to throw at us, being having Thomas Frank at the helm now. Kudos, big players now that they've got. You think they would have thrown a bit at us, but they didn't really. It seemed like we were comfortable in defence. Like you said, Rich, that free kick in the last minute, Matty Cash got a good header. And other than that, like before that, Tottenham threw everything at us, but didn't seem to throw everything at us in the last 10, 15 minutes. So was it a case of, we've given up on this game now, we've lost this, the home record's not great, you may as well keep going. But they probably shouldn't have done that. But look, it worked in our favour, and that's all we can say.
Yeah. Maybe they just got a bit frustrated. And like you said, we managed to keep the ball. We managed to have a couple of corners as well, which kept them sort of away from our goal, which was what we wanted to do. So yeah, I think we managed the game really well, and I think it was a real throwback to an Unai Emery classic performance. And he mentioned in his post-match, Sam, that we followed the game plan perfectly. I mean, I don't know if he had it in his game plan that we go 1-0 down after 5 minutes, but certainly in terms of the way that we played and the way that we kept our heads and the way that we sort of grew into the game, I'm pretty sure he was happy with that.
Before I answer, I'm going to confirm 2 things. 1, no, I don't have Parkinson's, and 2, I'm not sat on a massage chair. I have a tendency to shake my legs. So if you see me bobbing up and down, I'm either in agreement. I've got restless leg syndrome, so I shake my legs, but I don't notice it, and I'm not looking at myself on the screen, so I don't.
What a segue that was!
I know, yeah. I might be moving up and down, but
yeah. I should probably put my hands where you can see them if I'm just doing that. Yeah. What's the question? I don't know.
I can't even remember. Unai Emery game plan. There we go.
Unai Emery game plan. Yeah.
Players
sorry.
followed the game plan.
Being asked if I have Parkinson's wasn't on my bingo list for this podcast, so apologies. The game plan. No, the game plan probably wasn't to go down within the first 5 minutes, but I think he had the game plan is probably not about planning exactly how, every minute of it's going to go, but, your general shape and reaction. And I think, again, my response to your point about in the last 10 minutes expecting, expecting more of a Spurs onslaught. Again, I don't think they didn't try that. I just think we managed that really well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
We were playing the ball really comfortably. I thought Kamara was sensational today. By the way, I thought Kamara was just absolutely mint. And I was having this argument with my mate Shaz at halftime, who was trying to make an argument that Palhinha was better than Kamara, and I did what any rational person would do, and I went to the stats, and Kamara was wiping the floor with him in terms of like duels won and everything else, and I think he gave us that massive solidity, and they brought on some good players. They brought on Kolo Muani, brought on. I felt like they made 17 subs as well. I don't know what was going on, but I was.
Well, it seemed to me that they wanted to have a coaching session, like Thomas Frank was going into some real detail with the tactics. And you know what players are like when they're ready to come on. They don't care what the manager says. They just want to get on the pitch. And it seemed like Frank was just going through about 10 minutes of a team talking. He was getting his tactics board out. And then he was like, no, just wait there. You'll be on in a minute. And he seemed to take like 10, 15 minutes to bring these players on. But
he was probably asking someone to Google what a throw-in was because he doesn't have Keith Andrews. It's one of those. I think we managed that. We managed the game really well in the back end of it. I think we could have had a couple of others. I think we talked about the subs. Ross Barkley I thought was really good. Passing through that line. Pau Torres did really well at sort of like pinpoint passes through the lines as well, which is what we've been missing. And Ollie Watkins, came on. He was holding the ball up quite well. I think he'd have been disappointed by that one-on-one that he didn't sort of give himself a better showing. And I think a goal for Ollie Watkins today would have been amazing because I like Daniel Marlin, and I kind of felt like Daniel Marlin and Ollie Watkins should have stayed on the pitch together. I would have really liked to have seen Marlin go out to the right and Watkins play in the middle. But in general, I can understand where
he won every header when he came on as well. Watkins, he was excellent.
Yeah, I think, but I thought he was really good, and I think that the players probably did exactly what Unai Emery told them to do is be patient, be calm, play the ball, play the right passes. But the big shift since the start of the season that I've seen is we're playing a lot quicker. So we're playing a lot of long balls forward. We're criticizing Spurs for their Tony Pulis style of play, but we were playing loads of balls into the channel for Marlin and for Gassand, and I can't. And we said it right at the start of the season. It shouldn't be plan A, plan B. You need a combination of different ways to play in a game because if you play the same way for 90 minutes, teams can easily combat that because they know what's coming. But if you can switch it up and play little balls through the line, but then also play long balls over the top, then they don't, they're on their heels because they don't know what you're going to do. And I think we combine different styles of play really well today. And Unai Emery will be absolutely chuffed with that because Spurs are no mugs. They're not at their best. They're not where they were a few years ago, but they're no mugs. Thomas Frank is an absolutely brilliant manager, and they're a good team. But I think we got the best of them today, and I thought it was really convincing.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. There are nearly 400 of you watching tonight, which is absolutely crazy. We're on X and on YouTube, so thank you so much for your support. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and help us on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We're getting through as many comments as we can, but as you know, they are flying in. The comments are absolutely flying in, so please do keep them coming. I want to get onto a couple of the performances. Sam's mentioned Kamara was fantastic, and let's touch a bit more on Kamara. We'll maybe cover one or two other performances as well. But Dan, I'll come to you. What I felt with Kamara, and then I guess linking into the midfield with his midfield partner Amadou Onana as well. Like Sam mentioned about the sort of Tottenham midfield of Palhinha and Bentancur, they maybe had the better of the first exchanges, maybe the first 10, 15 minutes. But I think the way that those two grew into the game, and particularly Kamara just marshalling that midfield, controlling the play. just taking Xavi Simons out of the game, because I've been really impressed at times with him this season, and I thought he'd be a real thorn in our side, but he kind of just looked a bit of an, dare I say, an average midfielder today. But that was purely on the basis of just Kamara just marshaled him out of the game. But not just that, when he got on the ball, he was looking to play, he was playing quickly, he was playing those nice, intricate passes. And then Onana next to him, he took the mantle on to sort of be that dominant force physically. He got his confidence up. Yes, he went down a couple of times injured, but you look at him against Bentancur and against Palhinha, I mean, it was Onana that was, before he went off, with 9-10 minutes to go, it was him that was driving the ball through. And I thought it was a really good midfield performance, particularly from Kamara and Onana.
Yeah, I think it's no news to any Villa fan that I think without Kamara, with Kamara in the team, it makes us a lot better and a lot more balanced, because he's a bit like chalk and cheese. I think with any of the other midfielders, Kamara is more than happy to, if you just said to him, I want you to sit outside the 18-yard box, your own 18-yard box for 90 minutes, he would do it. He's not going to be tempted to maraud forward where like Onana's wants to get in the box. You had McGinn, Tielemans, and Bogard not so much, but actually like Kamara is just that calming influence, and also, dare I say, he is absolutely sensational, and he doesn't necessarily do anything that you wouldn't necessarily see him shoot like Matty Cash did towards Luca Dean, or pull the ball out the air like that. But actually, he'll play the simple passes. He'll win the ball back, and he'll get rid of the ball. And I sort of, part of me, he reminds me a little bit of what Gareth Barry used to do. He used to get the ball. Gareth Barry never used to, although he used to score goals, but Gareth Barry never used to bomb up and down from midfield. He would get into the box, but he would also play the simple ball, and he'd play it to a Villa player every time. Kamara just wins the ball, gets rid of the ball, and lets the other players tick over. And I think with Kamara, because he's got that versatility, you see it sometimes at Villa Park. I don't recall seeing it too much today, but he will happily go and drop into that back line to allow the system to move around. So I think he is the dynamo in not only the midfield, but actually the whole system, because he gives us that control, which sometimes we don't necessarily have. But yeah, another I don't know, there's so many words you could use to describe him, but he just seems to just constantly put in 7.5, 8 out of 10, just consistently every single game. He won't necessarily steal the limelight, but yeah, just superb again.
Yeah, 100%. Stephen said he's so tidy and clean, goes unnoticed from other supporters. TK says Kamara is the oil in the engine. I think that's a really good way to describe on both of those comments there. Another performance, I think, and I guess a partnership again, Ezri Konsa and Pau Torres Martin, fast becoming a really, really solid centre-back partnership. Konsa now stepping up as that leader, I guess, that we've wanted him to be. He's less sort of concentrating on having a go at other players if something goes wrong. He's more about inspiring. He's more about cajoling, encouraging. He's getting into the positions. He's reading the game. He's driving with the ball forward, out from the back. And then you've got Pau Torres, who we know the qualities that he's got on the ball, the way he can pass it into midfield. But we're also seeing now the ability to step up physically. And it's not just one or two games. It's now been 4, 5, 6 games where balls have gone into the box. He's winning headers. He's putting himself about. And they're fast becoming a really solid centre-back partnership.
Yeah, like I remember, and I'm going to go back to when Pau Torres was first signed. When Pau Torres and Konza actually had, I think, about 18 games together, we had 16 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. And that goes to show that partnership was working. Now, of course, Mings came back, and it's not to take anything away from Mings, but felt like partnership was kind of being disrupted a lot, because Pau Torres was then trying to get used to the physicality of the league, which was affecting him, which we would always call him out on. Then we were talking about Konza not stepping up to that. leadership because he's been there now for so long, and then Mings was doing it, and then Mings couldn't take that pass, which we were always looking for someone to do, and all these things just weren't clicking. But then since Mings has gone injured and Pau Torres has actually started to get a few run of games together, it seems like it's just yin and yang. Like they just completely go together for me. And Conte now finally getting himself about physical wise, being a leader, being a voice, and getting the captain's armband, whatever John McGinn is being substituted, goes to show that he's probably going to be the next Aston Villa captain, in my opinion, because he is the younger of John McGinn and Emi Martinez, obviously. So I think he's going to be the next Villa captain. So clearly, maybe they're molding him into that. And then you have Pau Torres, who's just a ball playing defender. He's just really, really good. And I think, personally, myself, I think Pau Torres does so well when Kamara's on the pitch, but when he's not, he seems to be a bit exposed. But Kamara kind of like gives him that mold of protection, because when we have the ball, Kamara likes to kind of dip in, and we almost look like a back three sometimes. And that gives Pau Torres that free rein to pass in between the lines or even go straight to the attack. These are all things that, when we have these players in, the system works. And Conte and Torres now, they just complement each other so much. And even without the ball now, we're actually starting to see Conte saying, Torres, come here. This is where you need to be. Don't get yourself in a physical battle, because if you do, he's going to turn you out. All these things are going to happen. And now for the two of them to finally communicate in the way that they play, in the way that we're in possession, out of possession, it's starting to work. And that's why we've won now 5 games in a row. And I'll find it very hard to try and get rid of that centre-back partnership, because for me, and I think for every other Villa fan in here, your centre-back partnership needs to be starting week in, week out. And it doesn't matter how good someone is coming off the bench. If they're your 2 main men that that you're going to get a result in, week out, they're the 2 that have to be playing. And for me, Conte and Pau need to now play week in, week out.
Yeah, well said, mate. Gary, Conte is the next captain, surely. Pau looks more solid this season, says John. Loving the high line again, by the way, says Kev. Gary said, think our squad is interchangeable now. Only a few starters, which is good. TK, Torres was superb. Michael, I love this post-win feeling. Best drug in the world. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? Andrew, roll along. Aston Villa, roll along. Superb today. It was like a quarterback. Yeah, there was just some really good, solid performances. And I think as Villa got that belief throughout the game, I just think players rose to the challenge and got better and better. Sam, I'll just come to you quickly on who I think was, well, he got my man of the match, and I think we know he's faced a lot of criticism, but I think not just for his pass, but I think the way that he handled Odobert and those 2 headers at the end of the game, those 2 defensive headers, one of them was in the end given a foul against him, but to be in those positions, to read the game at that time, and he's been guilty of sometimes not being in those positions. Matty Cash was fantastic today, and he has been very good, certainly over the last 4 or 5 games. But yeah, just an excellent performance all round for him today.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a contractual issue here. There's only so much I can praise Matty Cash.
This is why I said just quickly.
Not sure. He was all right. Yeah. No, I thought he was good today, and like the added pressure for him at playing at 3-point lane as well is difficult, because he gets a lot of criticism, and
yeah.
But I think generally he played well. I mean, I still don't understand him on set pieces, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's the best. He's got the best delivery, despite doing the probably pass of the season so far. There's a couple of times where he went to cross the ball and he plays. There's this really weird thing where he plays the ball behind all the players in the box and he kind of sets off a counter attack, and it's one of those things. He did it against Man United, and obviously we were punished for that. But he did it again today twice, and we weren't punished for it. But the thing about Matty Cash is the same thing we say about Buendia when you talk about endeavour and giving his all, and he's the best in the team at throwing his body on the line. I don't know if you've noticed this, but he always just chucks himself in front of it. More often than not, it does something. It serves a purpose. And all I'm going to say is fair play to him. He's played well. I think he had a good game today. I don't think he was I think my man of the match would have been Kamara because I think he marshalled the game. But Matty Cash in terms of impact and it's always funny for Matty Cash to get man of the match against Spurs considering how much they hate him. So
Yeah.
I was happy with that. But I don't have any major complaints about Cash's performance for most of the games this season. He's had a few. He has moments, doesn't he, where he just does something stupid and is a liability at sometimes. But more often than not, he's playing quite well, and I think he's kind of like he's calmed himself down a little bit. I think there were times last season where he's just too erratic, and now he's he's reduced the number of times that those things happen. And I think he had a good game today, and he contributed meaningfully, and he marshalled Odegaard quite well, and we struggled more with Kudus on the other side. But yeah, I don't even disagree with Ross as well. I think for me,
I think the top three were probably Konsa, Kamara, Cash. I think they were probably the top three, and obviously Buendia when he came on as well. Really good.
I mean Buendia was an impact, but in terms of we've spoken so much about how like Spurs didn't look like they were doing much because we managed the game so well.
Yes,
and if you're watching the game from like more than just a highlights reel point of view, then Kamara, Konsa, Cash, I've run out of words for Konsa, how good he is.
It's just crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy.
I honestly think, and I've been a Villa fan long enough to remember the likes of Melberg and Larson and Wilfred Bomer and all of the amazing centre backs that don't you laugh at Willy Bomer. He was a top player when he wasn't injured. But and I've seen some of these amazing centre backs. I don't think I've ever seen a better centre back at Villa Park.
Yeah. Well, I'm old enough to remember Paul McGrath. So
who? Never heard of him.
Whoa, hold on. No, my Irishness, don't ever say that again.
Mine. I'm pretty sure that you were too young to even hear the songs about Paul McGrath.
Okay, I don't need that. Not having it. I don't
care.
I've never seen him.
I wasn't old enough to watch Paul McGrath. But yeah, I just in my lifetime, like having watched the Villa, I can't remember a better centre back, and he's just got so much to his game, and I'm glad that he's finally getting recognised. By the way, we're talking about that combined 11. Call Shaz out again here. He reckons Romero is better than Konsa.
Oh, please.
We could talk about it if you want. I don't know. But
no. I don't want to get in combined 11s and that. We don't think we need to discuss combined 11s right now. What I do want to touch on, I've got a couple of questions. Say it again, Martin.
I was just going to say, before we go forward, did your mate Sam just have all Tottenham players? Because I'm starting to think that he said Konsa shit, shit. I'm just starting to think like, have you just gone everybody here?
The one that we really struggled with was the left. I wanted to put John McGinn there, and he wanted to put Xavi Simons there, but I couldn't allow it. And Xavi Simons was rubbish today as well. I have not seen anything from him since he's joined Spurs. I don't know. I haven't been watching them religiously, but we've won 2-1, and so all of the players are Villa players. Thank you.
Exactly. There's no argument anymore. That's what I was going to say. Just before we do close out the show, I've got a couple of questions that I've started as well. But Dan, I just wanted to talk about the low key, the squad that we've got, because the substitutes changed the game today, and I said that in a couple of the previews. I said that with Brad when we previewed the game on Thursday night. I said that with Harry from the Spurs fan when we previewed last night. I said that the substitutions that either team would be able to make would be the key to winning this game, and it was Villa that got the substitutes correct this time around. They had the impact, both from a winning the game perspective and controlling the game perspective, but also the fact that Sancho was left on the bench, Elliott was left on the bench, Yuri Tielemans is still to come back into the squad, Bogard was left on the bench, and he's been so good this season. You've got Garcia who isn't around at the minute. I'm not sure he's got an injury. You've got young players to come through, the likes of Aloba, Ben Broggio, etc., etc. This squad is looking pretty good at the moment. So are we in a really good position? Are we in a strong position with this momentum that we're managing to continue with players that might be able to play in some of these Europa League games? The fact that they're maybe not quite as intense as the Champions League in terms of the gravitas of each of the games and the fact that we've got 2 or 3 years experience in Europe now. Is this squad now looking in a good spot?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at, because I remember that our bench against Palace at home. So that's what I was looking for. And you look at where we are now, and I know obviously we had the transfer window where we brought in Elliott and Sancho, but just looking at our subs against Palace at home, we had Buendia, Dean, Torres, Bogard, which isn't anything out of the ordinary. And this is nothing against these lads, but we were simply at this point, because of injuries, we were putting bums on seats. Jimo Aloba, Brad Burrows, Rowe, Proctor, and Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember looking at that bench even before we lost 3-0, and you're like, Christ, compare that to the bench that we had the back end of the Champions League season, where you were bringing on the likes of like Asensio and what have you.
Yeah.
Obviously, things happen in the summer, but it was at that point I was a bit like, yeah, we're light on the ground here. But over the last few weeks, where you got those players that start to come back into the fold, and obviously, as you mentioned, Elliott and Sancho on the bench, but I was surprised to see Onana start to be fair. I thought it was a bit harsh on Bogard, because I don't think he's done anything bad to get to be dropped, but then you might see him play on Thursday, who knows. But I think in terms of squad depth, and as you say, the campaigns we've had in Europe now, we've actually got a squad where, I think we might have mentioned it the other night, we've got a squad that you can rotate, and you might be able to make 3, 4, 5 changes for Thursday. Not disrespecting Go Ahead Eagles, but you can potentially do that with the squad that we've now got. And I think that's obviously where Chelsea, with their squad of about 400 that they had last year, did well in the Conference League, because they could pretty much play their second or third string in the group phase of the conference, and then they got to the knockout, and then they brought in the Netos and Cole Palmers and what have you. So, not to say that we're going to completely change the squad, but we've certainly got a squad now where you can afford a bit of rotation, and I don't think we actually massively weaken either way.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're in a good position now, and just looking ahead slightly, Martin, before we do finish up tonight, looking slightly ahead. Go Ahead Eagles on Thursday evening, and then Man City on Sunday. A good opportunity to get minutes into players' legs for Thursday night. Yes, gone to Europe. Yes, Sam, and then to go into Man City now, who are playing very well. This is going to be a tough game, but Villa are also playing well. Got to take that as a big opportunity. Get a good win against the Go Ahead Eagles on Thursday. Hopefully, a good performance as well. Keeps that momentum going. Competition for places. It can only be good going into the next step of these Premier League games.
Well, yeah, this is the importance of having a big squad, isn't it? Like, you don't go into games with just a starting 11 and that's the end of it. Like we've seen in the past previous, where we've always had a good 11, but 2 or 3 players behind that, and then after that they were kind of like fringes. Where now we've got a squad, and you can go into Go Ahead Eagles now, rotate a little bit. I would imagine Marco Bazot will start the Europa League games. I think that's perfect for him. I think he should have it because of his performance against Feyenoord, his performance against Bologna. I don't see why you should not give it to him. And then other players as well who are playing in the Europa League, give them that start, because they're at the same level of the same player that is playing in the Premier League. Some players will suit the Premier League better than they will the Europa League. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, with where we are right now. And then coming up against Manchester City on Sunday, we actually have done okay against Man City now in the last while at home, which I think this has worked out perfectly for us to have Man City at home, so that once we get a good result now against Go Ahead Eagles, we'll have that feeling of confidence again to go into the Man City game saying, right, we have a good record at home against Man City. We've got a good squad. We've got a good set of players. Why not put them to the sword? And I think Rodri is missing for that game on Sunday, if I am correct, because I did see something that he is missing for it. That is going to be a huge bonus for us, where you've got Kamara, you've got Buendia, Onana, players in the midfield that can really hurt Man City. We would like to play that box. That hurts Man City so much. And for them not to have Rodri in that pitch, is going to kill them, I think, because we have seen it in the past where it does kill them. And I just think with the players that we have, the squad that we've got, I think we can put Man City forward and keep the momentum going.
Well, we will be here for it. We will be right here for it on this channel. Boys, I think we'll call it a night there. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Martin, Sam, and Dan. Follow Martin at Marto Leonardo. Follow Sam at Samwise_UTV and follow Dan at The Villa Home. Thank you all for watching. Nearly 400 of you in the chat. Thank you so much, and so many comments coming in. It's always brilliant, reflecting on a great win and a brilliant, really, really excellent performance. So thank you for joining us tonight. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back later this week with Fans Forum, with match previews, with hopefully talking tactics with Gareth. I know he's been away a little bit at the minute, but hopefully be back with him. And watch-alongs, we'll be back with the Go Ahead Eagles watch-along, the Man City watch-along, Man City preview. So much content to come this week. So make sure you stay with the channel. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.